I could have went down.
Okay, black girl. Oh, God.
Physician-assisted suicide is the only option when you're terminally ill. This statement refers to the recently passed bill called, also known as Death with Dignity. This statement is exactly what many doctors think. Though it is not my personal belief, I believe that every life is a gift from God, and that He will take the person home to be with Him when the timing is right. Today I will teach you a little bit more about this horrible law. It is so important to be informed about current controversies so that we can know exactly what we believe so that we can stand up under the weight of the world. First and foremost, I will tell you what God thinks about this. Secondly, I will explain to you why patients should not have the resources literally handed to them to kill themselves. And lastly, I will tell you about the complications that physician-assisted suicide may bring to the victim. What does God think? Life is a gift from God. As believers, we know that life is a gift from God. The Lord God formed the man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. The man became a living being. God gave us the gift of life. Every breath is a gift from Him, and we are to use our lives to glorify Him. God has a purpose for our lives. God has a purpose for every single person's life, whether young or old. Before we were born, God already had the course of our life planned out. People go through things so that they can learn from them. Their accomplishments or mistakes can be passed on and shared with others. Whether we're on our deathbed or we just ran the Ironman, God has a plan through all of it. I have heard so many stories where a doctor told parents to abort their baby, and the baby ended up being perfectly normal and a blessing to so many people's lives. The same is true with physician-assisted suicide. Just because doctors went to school for many years doesn't mean they know everything. It is very possible for the patient to go into remission and live several more healthy years. We don't know what God has planned for the time that we have left on earth. It's God's decision to take you home when He wants. No man has the authority to mess with that. Ecclesiastes 3:1-2 says, "There is a time for everything, a season for every activity under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die. God decides when that day may be, not mere man." We can learn from our elders. As teenagers, we often look down on older people because we believe that we are better. We think that we have more freedom, we're smarter, and we're more able-bodied. But our elders are so wise. It might just do us some good to take the time to listen to them. We need to bring our generations together and not think of them as lower than ourselves. They have been through life, and it's their purpose to share their wisdom and knowledge with us. 1 Thessalonians 5:12 says, "Now we ask you, brothers, to respect those who work hard among you, who are over you in the Lord and who admonish you. They have spent their time before you working and learning from people older and wiser. Working and learning. And now it's your turn to learn from them. The more physician-assisted suicides that we have, the harder that will become. The wise generation is slowly starting to diminish. Patients should not have the resources to kill themselves. 1, it gives medicine a bad name. I myself want to go into the medical field, and I don't want my career to be thought of poorly. I cannot even imagine going to work and committing murders every day. I believe that physician-assisted suicide is considered murder because there is no doubt that they are living. They just might not be in the best health. Proverbs 28:17 says, "A man tormented by the guilt of murder will be a fugitive till death. Let no one support him." This is what God has to say about a man that murders another. What a doctor may or may not realize is that they are ultimately taking someone's life. Secondly, the patient may not have a clear mind while accepting these drugs. The hospital can be a pretty depressing place. Even if a patient's mind isn't impaired and they are able to make a decision about killing themselves, their emotions may definitely weigh in on that decision. Many people do not want to be a burden to their family, they're tired of being sick, or they want to say how and when their life ends. And lastly, it may cause complications. First, it may cause emotional complications. This decision between the patient and doctor can have a severe effect on the patient if the suicide attempt has failed, but also it can have a great effect on the family. Suicide is an incredibly selfish act. It does not benefit anyone else. You are only thinking of yourself. It may have physical complications. Dr. Petty is arguing against the recently passed bill. He said, "Statistics kept by the Oregon Health Department on assisted suicides show that some of the suicide patients take as long as 37 hours to die." He questioned whether these deaths could have really been caused by the drugs, which work after about 4 hours. It's very, very painful, Petty said. In conclusion, I ask you to consider all these things that I have just taught you. Do the actions of these doctors and patients honor God? Does ending their life provide any benefit for others? Aren't they ultimately only thinking of themselves? It is only for God to decide when he takes his children home. What if God has more time planned for this person? What if it's for many more years? If they would have only thought about that before they decided to kill themselves. What if they knew that there was more to live for than they thought? What if they do great things in the last years of their life? If they would have only taken the time to think about that, but they will never know what a difference they could have made if they decided not to end their life. Thank you.